All right. Again, good morning, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the Analyzer and Tethr side-by-side comparison. I want to do a brief high-level overview and a little bit of a description of the two voice analytic tools we'll be talking about this morning. So thank you for jumping on it and joining us for that. We hope you ask questions and save those towards the end. We're going to try and get a couple of those common questions asked with myself and Steve Vogt on the call today, and he'll be walking through a couple of those examples. So let's go ahead and get started and kick in. We have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and transition. And really, we're going to talk a little bit about the conventional wisdom with speech analytics. We're making a few assumptions with the audience with you on today. Majority of you have some sort of speech analytics with your enterprise or some sort of tool to help you listen to your customers. And so a little bit, if that's overwhelming to you, we'd love to talk to you a little bit more and educate you about what that is in detail, but we're making a couple assumptions that you really know a little bit more about speech analytics here. But if there's still questions, please feel free to ask. We'll give a high-level overview of Analyzer and Tethr in comparison versus value versus the features of what both can provide. And then Steve will take us through a couple of task examples of what that looks like of a task in Tethr versus a task in Analyzer and the differences between the two. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with some Q&A and some questions that are commonly asked. So before we move on, I want to plug our upcoming AVTechs webinar that's going to be scheduled for the 20th. It's really to explore the potential impact and the use of bots with artificial intelligence on the modern day organization. And it's looking at Q&A from your website, feedback in the Microsoft Dynamics, a full-on knowledge base, and conversation and route for appropriate reps for those conversations. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to go ahead and tune in and sign up for that. So let's go ahead and dig in. So again, this is really looking at a little bit more of the conventional wisdom of speech analytics. There's been a few generations of speech analytics out there in the market, and some of those have landed, unfortunately, with a thud. I think a lot of us were sold with this amazing capability to deliver and wow the enterprise with the insights that come from speech analytics. And some of those previous generations didn't do that. In fact, they still are. However, there's now the tools that we're talking about today that are really getting towards that. And what that means here, what I'm showing in front of you, is the call recordings or chat logs, the 30%. This is coming from Forrester Research data. That actually needs to be higher, and it will be higher as we continue to march forward with shaving the surveys back and then really bringing up this unlocked treasure trove of the customer insights through the voice channel. That's really what's going to be going on in the future. And so it's identifying a common emerging customer problem. It's going to look at the highest and performing agents and opportunities for service process improvements across those interactions. And we're not talking about dozens, hundreds, or thousands. We're talking huge amounts of calls that could really untap and unlock that potential. So we'll end up seeing transactional surveys and market research supplement the data that's going to be coming in the call logs and those call recordings that will have tools like Tethr and Analyzer be able to really unpack, and we'll see the differences between the two, what we mean by that. And so moving forward, so we looked at how call center managers and teams tasked with capturing voice of the customer, and what this is going to address the onslaught of siloed organizational barriers, right? So even when firms do have an understanding of the customer understanding with that, there's a little bit of a preventive aspects in that, and it's really the siloed aspect, outdated IVRs and other technological platforms getting in the way of sharing that data. We're going to highlight a couple of examples here later on that's going to show you how it can really get over these hurdles and what those reporting structures can look like, particularly between Analyzer and Tethr. And I think it's going to be night and day, and you'll be able to clearly see how that can get shared and get teams excited about understanding that customer narrative and that North Star piece. So looking and comparing an Analyzer Tethr high level, just kind of marching through this is looking through price. It's coming down to pennies per minute per license per year. It's like, well, Chris, great. What's the actual dollar figure? Well, that's something we'd love to talk to you about and what that actually means. With Tethr out of the box, it plugs right into Salesforce, and which is a great addition for many of our clients. Analyzer, it's only a functional aspect within CIC, which is great because many of you have it. For those that look to plan on using with that in tandem, there's so many more insights that we can gain with the combination of Analyzer and Tethr. We love to really dig in deeper into that because the transcription, the accuracy of what that means is very powerful. And part of that is looking at the functionality. So Tethr does a really good job of grabbing the transcription in addition to the context. Analyzer has keyword spotting. That's something that Steve will show us in a little bit that has to be pre-programmed in. So if it's going to be a word like support or ticketing, you have to put those in like quotes, very particular, and there's a lot of steps in between to have that word grabbed, versus almost a Google plug and play of, I just want to grab these words in a search option and see what the context is before, during, and after, and the value that comes from that, and what's packed into those calls that customers often share beyond those keywords. The user experience, it's again just night and day. We're coming down to ease of use of a piece of software, and when you're looking across the board, it's almost looking at Windows 95 versus the modern day application of Microsoft. So it's 5 stars versus 2. It's I think something that you'll agree with and see why. One real difference is the real time. Analyzer does do real time. It's in the moment, and there's alerts of that. Tethr doesn't do that, but for good reason, because we're looking at contextual call history of changing agent and enterprise behavior, not trying to run around the call center with alerts and red flags. The contextual industry libraries, this is really where I think some of the power comes in, where Tethr comparison analyzer is there's going to be particular vernacular terminology for your business and your industry that's going to be just for you. Whereas Analyzer, again, we're looking at keyword spotting, and it's not going to get those special types of words unless you really go in and take the laborious hours of programming that in. So the difference is building libraries that can already have those words pre-populated to look and catch those, versus ones you have to really go in and manually introduce and then hope they hit. With the reporting, we're looking at deep insights with customization on who you want those insights to be shared with and how those insights are going to be populated. Again, we're looking at keyword and agent scoring, and Steve's going to give us an example of that in a little bit too. Because the scoring is default with an analyzer, Tethr doesn't have that aspect of scoring. There's going to be a different set of measurements. It's not going to be a particular 1 through 10 scale. We're just going to unpack that from agent behavior to average handling time, the like. That's the common metrics that we see in the call centers, but it's getting beyond that, right? So, and we'll show you a little bit of that in the following slides. One last piece is the search. The Tethr aspect of the search is very intuitive. It's again, as we've been programmed with the web of, we want to find something out, we go Google it. It's similar within Tethr. We want to find what certain customers are saying in addition to other words within quotes, using simple Boolean logic. Analyzer, it's really predefined. Again, it's going to have to be known what your customer's already saying, and then taking that and then plugging that in. So imagine using both of those tools together. The power is just enormous. I want to stop there and then dive into a little bit more of the insights and the reporting graphs so you can get to see a little bit more what I'm talking about. So this is at a high level comparison Analyzer and Tethr. So the Tethr aspect of high effort calls versus a little bit more of a standard readout of what Analyzer has from customer service down to the departments and the sales and how those calls are hitting and the number of words that have been programmed for that. Whereas Tethr, it's a little bit more cleaner, right? It's a little bit more graphically pleasing on the eyes, but this is just an example of what the styles can look like. And not to say that data is any different, but it's going to get people excited. You almost think like a Tableau aspect of it, which, interesting enough, Tethr has an IO that links into that. Moving on to the next slide, this is really actionable insight versus categorical hits. So we're going to get very broad strokes of the analyzer readout versus Tethr. We're going to get to the core aspect of why that customer was really disappointed and what about the product and their service. So this is really going to help when agents need feedback to how they're addressing some of those dissatisfaction calls and what that means, positive and negative language. So again, the readouts and what we're seeing from Tethr and the actual coaching that can come from that is more meaningful. Next slide. So comparing scoring across all call groups versus identifying problems well beyond what's programmable. Tethr really just gets at the context rather than the keywords as it's being displayed here above. Again, the scoring is a nice feature with an analyzer. However, Tethr, the capabilities and the customization that can be done is unparalleled. We can look at call groups by region. We look at effort calls, channel switching. That's not really available in Analyzer right now. There could be some really fascinating programmable custom techniques in Analyzer. I haven't seen it. Maybe some other guys out there you guys may have. Happy to share that. Hopefully you can share that with us. But from what we're seeing out of the box with Tethr versus Analyzer, it's just really clear night and day with the value versus features set. And one last slide is, despite the obvious difference in stylistics, the marked changes in agent behavior and customer emotions we see that Tethr can pick up is just, again, unparalleled. So the Analyzer displayed image on the top versus Tethr on the bottom, we're looking at call agents, the QA across. And so this is where measurement can get really interesting, because it's not so much the importance of the graph itself, but again, looking at the coachable moments and change in behavior for the agents. So both can be done. However, Tethr provides managers with more ammo that can be shared with those agents and make that feedback more injectable and what is personable when giving that type of coaching. So again, yeah, I like to think of Windows 95 versus the modern day Microsoft output. So Tethr does a great job doing that. And these are just examples of insights that can be done with reporting. This is not the full set by any means. This is just a high level. So I want to go ahead and transition this over to Steve, and Steve's going to take us into a little bit more of the aspects of Tethr versus Analyzer and what that means and some of the tasks are shared. So Steve, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be with you all today. My name is Steve Vogt, a business analyst here at AVTechs. And I get to do really the fun part here, probably hopefully what most of you want to see is as much as I do, and that's actually kind of getting inside both of these applications, whether you've used Interaction Analyzer before, or you've seen it, or Tethr. I'm going to actually walk through both applications in a side-by-side example, kind of illustrating what one task looks like in one application and how you can do that same task in another application. So to get us started, I'm going to first show off Interaction Analyzer. And in Interaction Analyzer, for those that have used it will know that it's found in the suite of products called IC Business Manager. If this whole concept is new to you, it's the first time you're seeing it, that's fine too. We'll just kind of walk through an example of how I might want to find a particular call or a set of calls with a particular keyword that we happen to find of interest. So that's what I'm going to be showing you here today. So here we are within our Interaction Recorder tool, about ready to do an analyzer search. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new search for some call recordings. Now, in today's example, I'm going to be interested in learning about any calls that have taken place with the word support, right? A nice basic example. The word support. I want to know if any customers, any of my agents, anytime that word support has been spoken on the phone call, I want to see a list of that. So how do I do that? Well, in Analyzer, we're going to go ahead here and we got to build out our search. So there's kind of this framework architecture that we have to first get in place before we can see any of those search results. So I'm going to go ahead and create a search. To do that, we're just simply going to go into Interaction Analyzer. And you'll see that there are a handful of options. Not going to be going through all those today. It's not a training session. It's just kind of an overview, right? So you can thank me for that. We're going to go ahead and select keyword here. And then Analyzer, as Chris mentioned, has a list of predefined searches. And that's really going to be a pivot point in where the technology of Tethr really picks off from where Analyzer left off. All of these options that you see here, these words, these phrases have been predefined, meaning someone had to come in here and think, this is what I think my customers or clients are saying, or this is what I want to know if one of my customers or clients says. So there's kind of a difference in thought process here, which I'll illustrate in the Tethr example. But just know that all these words in Analyzer have to be pre-programmed, pre-thought out in order to detect them on a phone call. So I'm going to go ahead and select the word support, keeping this a nice, simple, basic example. And then I'm going to go ahead and run my search. And you'll notice that while the search is running here, that task that I just did about right-clicking, selecting Analyzer, selecting keyword, you might find it a bit intimidating if you haven't done it before. And that really just comes down to training. The nice thing is with Tethr, you'll see there really is no training needed. If you know how to perform a search, as Chris mentioned in Google, then you know how to work Tethr. Whereas in Analyzer, you need a bit of hand-holding. So here we have a list of calls that appeared in Analyzer. I'm going to go ahead and open up a call here. And what we see now, I'm going to go ahead and pause it, is a actual recording that took place in one of our demo systems. And over here on the left-hand side is where I'm going to be focusing. And if I click the play button, even though you can't hear the audio of the recording, most of us could tell that there's some sort of audio here. The Interaction Analyzer software is actually going to tell us where in the call and at what second it heard the word support. So if you watch when I click play, we can see that it detected a few words there. And I can even hover over the product and have it tell me exactly what word it identified. So if this was a longer call, I could move the cursor here and jump back and forth, right? But all we're getting right now, just what we've pre-programmed into Analyzer, which is the word support. I see a couple other ones that have been identified here, but again, all we're getting is what we've put into it so far. So that's where Interaction Analyzer kind of left off with its speech analytics. It just left it at a predefined capture tool. So now I'm going to go ahead and shift gears and show what Tethr has to offer us. So this is probably the first time just about everyone on the call has seen Tethr for all its pride and glory. It's a web-based application, which is really refreshing. You don't have to load any software on your workstation. As Chris mentioned, this application is done rather than licensed through CIC. It's by a paid per or pennies per minute. So it is a different structure, all said and done. Now, the nice thing about this application here is it already feels like something we're familiar with in the marketplace today. I see right away something very refreshing that says search for a keyword or phrases, right? It already is kind of a welcome presence. Before I do that though, let's just take a look here at what is going on below. We see that it already has 1,149 calls for us, and that's just what we've programmed into our test environment here. You'll see that each one of these is clickable, and each one of these items represents a phone call. And below the title, you'll see what's called categories, often referred to as libraries as well. Now with Tethr and Analyzer, you get to build out your predefined lists of words, phrases, concepts, areas of interest that you're hoping to find. So they do share a similar path in that structure. And what we're seeing here in Tethr are all the predefined lists that the call has determined took place. But where Tethr again really is stronger and has taken this to the next level is if I did not pre-program a word or a phrase on a call, I can still go back and search for that word or phrase. So to do that, all I have to do is come up to the search bar and type in the word, for our example, support. Within a matter of seconds, we see that that list of 1,100 calls has been refined down to 389. Not only that, but now we can actually see a quick snapshot to the transcription of the call where the word support has taken place. If I go ahead and click on one of these calls, the real magic of Tethr is shown to us. So here we have a call that broken out into kind of a similar fashion. We can tell that there's some audio here based on kind of how the diagram looks. We can see that the channel now very clearly has been broken out to us in an agent form on the top and a customer channel on the bottom. Now, all those words, those libraries that I mentioned are showing up here. All these T2, they're just the titles of our categories. They're going to show us all the context that we've pre-thought out that took place in a phone call. But the real magic again is I didn't build out any libraries for the word support, yet I can still find anytime that word or phrase took place on a phone call. Not only that, but notice how it's on the bottom of the screen here versus the top half. That tells me right away that it took place on the customer side of the call, not the agent. Now, to take this even further, if I want to go ahead and jump down, the system automatically tells me in real time now, as I'm looking at this, what the context of the call was based on text transcription, or if I want to click on the play button, I can hear the audio and read the text transcription of that phone call. So it's a really nice platform that allows you to very quickly get additional insight that you, in all other circumstances, would have been missing out on had you just been using the analyzer tool. Because what we did here is we took a word such as support and plugged it into Tethr and found out that it actually did take place on a phone call, even though we didn't already think to pre-program it in our list. If I go back to the search and browse, one more section I wanted to bring up here is over here on the right-hand side, we have an advanced section. And I mentioned before that the word support appeared on the customer channel. We can go ahead and, before we even run the search, we can decide some additional criteria, such as I just want to see when those words are spoken by either the agent only or by the customer. Obviously, in this case, we selected agent or customer just to get us a larger list of results. So this again is just the tip of the iceberg. We'd love to show you all the bells and whistles and features of Tethr. So when you want to reach out to us, we're here. For now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Chris.
Excellent, Steve. Thank you. That was fantastic. And I think we have a couple of questions we want to get to. Steve, you might have that already pulled up in the queue. One question that I have is, how is this getting integrated to the calls? What does it take? What does that look like? Well, because if you're in CIC environment, for those on the call, interactive intelligence, that's actually fairly easy. You're recording your calls already. So all we have to do is just link up to those call recordings. The real integration happens when we start tuning those calls to the keywords and to the phrases that you're looking for in the context of those customer support calls. It could be sales calls as well, or technical, depending on what environment you're operating or want to look at them, inbound or outbound. So because we already can help you with pulling those calls, that's the easy part. The more technical is tuning that, and we can show you how to do that as well, or we can help you do that for long. We do find that once we get clients up and running, that they say, great, we want to get to insights, this is exciting, but then once the insights show up with Tethr, they're not able to really pack that into the organization. That's where we could also help with more of the more managed services too, or say, this is how we can get this fully unpacked. So we see this happen in stages and what that means. And because the clients that do, they crash and burn. And we don't want to see anyone happen to do that, to make those investments not get worth their while. Steve, did you have your question pulled up?
Yeah, another question came in about, what type of integration you can get with the Tethr application with the CIC application as far as the metadata. So I'm going to go ahead and actually show what that will look like here. So the question really pertains around, this isn't a CIC application, right? It's a web-based application that's not directly under the Interactive Intelligence Genesis umbrella. However, if I want to go into one of these calls and still find the same sort of detail that I'm used to seeing, such as the interaction ID, the work group, the agent, I can still click on a link here, such as show metadata. And what's great is at my fingertips, I now have the same detail that I did in any of the CIC products, such as the interaction ID, the work group, and even the agent first last name or the caller first last name. So even though this application is not native to CIC, it still pulls us for each call recording all of that same content at our fingertips for us to be productive in both platforms.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's where the gold comes to be able to split and do those data cuts really eloquently within Tethr, and that's what that's really excites me and excites a lot of our clients. So I want to start to wrap up here. We've gone through quite a bit. Again, this is very high level for a lot of instances listening between Tethr and Analyzer. There's a lot that we could dive into. This is only a 30-minute webinar, but there's hours and hours of content of cool material we'd love to talk to you about. But I think really what the next steps are is for those that have CIC Analyzer, we'd love to talk to you and show you how we can link the two, or if you go to the next stage with Tethr that just, again, is unparalleled on what can be done, and give you a quick demonstration of that. For those that are not on either Tethr or CRC or any voice analytics, we'd still like to talk to you and really give you a demonstration of what that means and how we could educate you and your teams forward. We have a couple of use case studies too that we don't have time to really unpack here that could really show the ROI value. And one of those is with a large US airline, and they were a little bit skeptical about the QA. And so there's a hypothesis that was asked. It said, hey, let's go and check all the calls that are coming into your QA. What is that percentage perception? And management said, oh, it's 10 to 15% of the calls that come in for our partners. It's okay, that's great. Let's go ahead and test that hypothesis. The hypothesis from the major airline was tested, and it was in fact the case across many other partners except for one. And one that came in was over 60% because they just redesigned their website. Unknown to them that those calls were trying to be self-service by customers trying to change flight, understand flight insurance, and what they were sold with their tickets being discounted on that discounted airline site. So part of that was leaving the mouths on the ground of the airline executives to see what Tethr had brought to them because of the insights. And you think of the travel discount airlines, so Kayak, the Travaggios, the Pricelines of the world. Those are the types of partners that we're talking about here. And that website redesign will go unnamed, but it really allowed them to go and renegotiate their contract with them and say why the spike of QA was up to 60%. And because that they just proved the hypothesis and then was able to go back to that partner and renegotiate and save lots of money from that. So that's just one use case example that we're seeing tremendous value at Tethr. We'd love to see more. And so if you're already on CIC, please reach out to your CAM, your rep, your account agent. If you're not, ask that you reach out to myself, and I'd love to talk to you about that and share more use case examples. And we're not a sales heavy pitch by any means. We just want to share the cool technology we have and help others like yourselves. So any questions in addition to that, please type those into the question box onto the lower right hand of your screen. If any at all, I am not seeing any. Steve, are you seeing any additional other ones?
I am not, but that doesn't mean we won't hang on here if anyone wants to provide us any further ones. Otherwise, as Chris mentioned, to reach out to him or any of your current existing relationship representatives here at AVTechs. So happy to answer them.
Excellent, great. Well,
actually,
thank you. Go ahead.
Well, one just came in here. Does
Sure.
Tethr with Pure Cloud? And the answer is yes, it does. It does integrate with Pure Cloud.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Tethr links up Pure Cloud. It links up to other providers, Five9, Avaya, Cisco, CIC, integrations to Dynamics. The plug and play capabilities out of the box are pretty amazing. So there's a lot, again, that's packed in there. We would love to share with you. And this is excellent. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I think we're going to wrap up here. So again, please reach out to myself or your agent and your rep about insights with Tethr. And thanks again. And for future webinars, go ahead and see AVTechs Webinar Series at avtechs.com. Take care and have a good day.